All right, so today we're diving into something totally different.
Okay.
Chaos magic,
But-
but for raising kids.
All right.
And
Sounds a little chaotic.
yeah, no, before you picture like wands and wizardry and, trying to get your kids to levitate their vegetables.
Right.
It's a lot more grounded and a lot more interesting than that.
Yes. It really is fascinating. You see, chaos magic is less about spells and more about embracing a flexible, creativity-driven approach to parenting,
Yeah.
which, let's face it, can often feel like its own kind of beautiful chaos.
It really can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where this book, Chaos, Magic, and Education by Ewell J. Juliana comes in.
Okay.
This book really caught my eye because it digs into how these principles can apply to kids of all ages, from toddlers to teens.
Yeah. The book really challenges conventional parenting wisdom. It encourages us to loosen the grip on rigid rules and instead really tap into our intuition and what works best for our unique family dynamic.
Okay, that already sounds amazing, because who hasn't felt like they're failing at this whole parenting gig when trying to follow some expert advice that just doesn't click with their kid?
Exactly.
Right.
The book highlights 3 core principles of chaos magic, but reframed for parents. So we have flexibility of belief, the power of intention, and symbolic freedom.
Okay, let's unpack these.
Okay.
Flexibility of belief.
Yeah.
That sounds like it could go in a million directions.
It might seem open-ended, but it's actually very grounded. It means you get to choose the beliefs and methods that resonate with you and your family, adapting them as needed.
Yeah.
No dogma, just what works.
Okay, so it's less about this is the way to discipline and more about here are some tools you figure out what works for your crew.
You've got it.
Okay.
It empowers you, the parent.
I like that.
Then there's the power of intention.
Okay.
This is where you consciously focus on your desired outcomes, because this focus can actually shape your actions and influence your family dynamic.
Okay.
Think of it as setting goals, but for your family life.
I can already see how that would be helpful. Like, you're more likely to move towards what you're actively thinking about, right? So if
Yeah.
you're intentional about creating calm mornings, you'll naturally start setting up routines to achieve that.
Precisely. It's about mindful parenting, bringing those intentions into your daily interactions.
I like it.
And lastly, we have symbolic freedom. Now, this is where things get a little more whimsical, but still very intentional. It's about using symbols and rituals that resonate with both you and your children.
Okay, now you've piqued my curiosity. Give me an example. How does one use, say, symbolic freedom to get a toddler to eat their vegetables?
Picture this instead of another dinner time battle. You create a little story where the broccoli florets are magic trees from a faraway land, and your child is a brave explorer who needs to eat them to gain special powers.
Okay, that is clever. You're tapping into their imagination instead of getting stuck in a power struggle.
Exactly.
I like it.
It's about making those everyday moments magical and engaging for kids while subtly guiding them toward positive behaviors. And the beauty is this adaptability works for different ages and stages. What works for a toddler won't necessarily work for a teenager, right?
That's right. You can't exactly tell a moody teenager that their messy room is a magical portal to another dimension. Or could you?
Well, you could try, but you might want to adjust the approach a bit.
Yeah.
For older kids, it's about finding symbols and rituals that resonate with their developing sense of self and their need for autonomy.
So how does this play out practically? Does the book give specifics about raising kids with these principles?
It does. It breaks down practical applications by age group, which I found really helpful. For those little ones age 0 to 6, it talks about tapping into your parental intuition.
That makes a lot of sense. With toddlers, so much of it is going with your gut because they can't always tell you what's going on.
Absolutely. And chaos magic encourages that. For example, the book mentions a mom who used a magic wand to make tidying up fun for her preschooler. It instantly turned a chore into a game.
You see, I love that turning everyday tasks into something fun and engaging. It doesn't feel like you're imposing some strict system, but you're still working towards a desired outcome. Speaking of different ages, what about those tricky middle school years?
For ages 7 to 12, the book focuses on encouraging autonomy. One of the examples they give is having kids create their own magical recipes for things like success or happiness.
Hold on, magical recipes. Are we talking potions here?
Not quite, although they could be fun too. These recipes are more symbolic. For instance, a child might decide their recipe for a good day at school includes ingredients like a sprinkle of confidence, a cup of focus, and a dash of kindness.
That's such a cool way to get them thinking about their own emotions and what helps them thrive. Okay, I'm sold on those stages, but what about teenagers? They're a whole other ballgame. Can chaos magic really help with that?
Believe it or not, the book suggests Chaos magic can be incredibly useful for teens, especially for navigating big life transitions and those emotional roller coasters they're known for.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. How so?
Well, it gives this example of helping a teenager create a transformation mirror.
A transformation mirror. That sounds pretty magical even for this conversation.
It sounds more fantastical than it is, but it taps into that symbolic power we talked about. Basically, a teenager decorates a mirror with images and words that represent their ideal self goals and aspirations.
Ah, so it's like a vision board, but with a mirror, which adds that extra layer of self-reflection.
Exactly. It encourages them to envision the person they want to become and to see their own potential, which can be incredibly empowering during a time when they're often grappling with self-doubt.
That's powerful, especially during those years when they're trying to figure out who they are. But does the book just throw out these cool ideas and leave you to figure it out?
Not at all. It delves into the how-to of applying chaos magic, emphasizing the importance of 3 key practices: setting intentions, creating rituals, and embracing collaborative magic within the family.
Okay, those sound like concrete actions you can take. Tell me more about setting intentions in this context.
It's more than just wishing for a calmer household, although that's a great starting point. The book emphasizes regularly taking time as a family to define your shared values and goals.
You're like a family mission statement, but with a touch of magic, right?
Exactly.
I like it.
And then you break those larger intentions down into smaller daily intentions that can guide your actions. For example, if your family value is kindness, your daily intention might be to do one kind thing for each other or for someone outside the family.
I love how simple yet powerful that is. It brings those values to life through your everyday actions. What about creating rituals?
This is where it gets really interesting. The book encourages viewing rituals not as stuffy religious ceremonies, but as chances to transform everyday moments into meaningful connections.
So it's about finding those little touch points throughout the day where you can infuse a bit of intention and a little sprinkle of magic.
Exactly. The book talks about creating a special goodnight ritual. It could be as simple as lighting a candle together, sharing something you're grateful for, or reading a favorite story. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It's about creating connection.
That's a beautiful way to end the day. And it's so needed, especially in our busy world. It's about slowing down and savoring those small moments. What other examples of rituals does the book give?
Well, they also suggest having a monthly family meeting. This acts as a ritual to reflect on the past month, set intentions for the month ahead, and just reconnect as a family.
That's a fantastic idea. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day that you forget to pause and check in with each other. Okay, so we've covered intentions and rituals. What about this collaborative magic thing?
This is where the heart of chaos magic really shines, especially for families. It's all about involving your kids in creating the symbols, stories, and rituals that resonate with them.
So it's not about parents dictating what's meaningful, but rather co-creating it as a family.
Exactly. And the book points out that when children are actively involved in making their own magical world, it becomes that much more powerful. It taps into their imaginations and gives them ownership.
That makes a lot of sense. Kids are naturally drawn to magic and make-believe, so why not use that to make everyday life feel more special and intentional?
Precisely. It's about creating a shared language of symbolism and ritual that can strengthen your family bond and help everyone navigate life with more creativity and resilience. It's like giving kids a set of tools to navigate the world, but also acknowledging that there's no one right way to use those tools. They get to experiment and find what works for them.
It's about fostering that sense of agency and creative problem solving, which is amazing. And before we get too carried away with magical thinking, this is still about real-life parenting, right?
Absolutely. Chaos magic isn't about escaping reality, but about engaging with it in a more conscious and creative way.
Okay.
It's about finding those little sparks of magic in the everyday chaos, which I think most parents can relate to.
Totally. It's about building a toolbox of techniques that help you and your family navigate life's adventures with a little more grace, intention, and yeah, maybe even a sprinkle of magic.
And what I love is the book doesn't just offer these theoretical concepts. It gets into the nitty-gritty of applying chaos magic with practical examples, worksheets, and even a guide to create your own magical parenting system.
So it's like a chaos magic handbook for parents, which I'm already adding to my reading list. You know, as we're talking, it strikes me that some of these principles really align with other parenting philosophies out there, like attachment parenting or gentle parenting. It's all about building that strong emotional connection and meeting your child where they are developmentally.
That's a great connection. There's definitely overlap. At its core, chaos magic is about empowering individuals to find what works best for them. So it makes sense that it would resonate with parenting approaches that emphasize respect, empathy, and understanding the individual needs of each child.
It's about moving away from those rigid one-size-fits-all models and embracing a more intuitive and responsive way of parenting.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes chaos magic so appealing to a lot of parents. It gives you a framework for navigating the complexities of family life without imposing a strict set of rules. You get to define what works for you.
It's about creating a more personalized and potentially magical experience for everyone involved. You know, this has got me thinking about how we can use some of these chaos magic principles in my own family. My kids are still pretty young, so I'm especially drawn to the ideas for toddlers and preschoolers.
I think that age group is perfect for experimenting with chaos magic because their imaginations are so active, they're already primed for this kind of thinking.
Exactly. I'm already picturing turning bedtime into a whole ritual with enchanted stuffed animals and magical bedtime stories.
It doesn't have to be elaborate to be effective. Remember, it's about finding what resonates with your family and keeping it simple and fun.
Right, no need to turn bedtime into a theatrical production. But I love the idea of making it more intentional. I think it could be a really special way to connect before they drift off to sleep. And it's not just bedtime, right? Didn't the book talk about using chaos magic for other everyday moments?
It did. They
Yeah.
talked about meal times, getting ready for school,
Mm.
basically any routine you want to make more engaging for kids.
Like turning breakfast into a magical feast for tiny adventurers, or turning that morning commute into a quest to find hidden treasures in your neighborhood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about finding those opportunities to spark your children's imaginations and make even mundane tasks feel more magical and playful.
And it's not just about making things fun, it's also about helping kids develop crucial emotional and social skills, right?
Absolutely. The book talks about how chaos magic can be used to help children with everything from managing their emotions to resolving conflicts in a healthy way.
Do you have an example of how that might work?
Sure. Imagine your child is having a meltdown. Instead of engaging in a power struggle, you could try a more symbolic approach. One idea from the book is to create a calm-down jar filled with glitter and water. Encourage your child to shake it up and watch as the glitter settles, symbolizing their own emotions calming down.
That's brilliant. It gives them a visual representation of their emotions and a physical way to help themselves regulate. I love that.
It's about giving them tools, and this ties back to the collaborative magic we talked about. When you create these tools together, it becomes even more powerful for the child.
It makes them a participant in their own emotional well-being, which is so important.
And you could even extend this beyond parenting. The book talks about how chaos magic principles can be applied in educational settings as well.
Now that you mention it, I remember reading something about that. How would that even work, using magic in the classroom?
Well, it's less about literal magic and more about bringing those elements of play storytelling and ritual into the learning environment.
Mm-hmm.
For example, teachers could use storytelling and symbolic activities to bring lessons to life. Or they could create classroom rituals to promote focused creativity and collaboration among the students.
It's like taking the magic of childhood imagination and using it to spark a genuine love of learning, which can be so hard with traditional teaching methods.
Exactly. And it's not about dumbing things down. It's about making the learning process more accessible and relatable to children, meeting them where they are.
It's about fostering a sense of wonder and curiosity, which is so essential for lifelong learning.
Right. And it's not just about academics. Chaos magic can also be a way to create a more positive and supportive classroom community.
How so?
Well, teachers could use rituals and symbols to help children develop empathy, compassion, and a sense of belonging. The book even gives an example of creating a kindness corner, where students can go to share acts of kindness or to find support when they're feeling down.
That's such a heartwarming idea. It's about creating a space where children feel safe, valued, and connected to each other.
Exactly. And it's about empowering them to create a more positive and harmonious world, both inside and outside the classroom.
This has been so insightful, but it makes me wonder, are there any potential drawbacks or challenges to using chaos magic in parenting or education? I mean, it can't all be enchanted forests and glitter jars, right?
That's a great question, and one the book addresses directly. One potential challenge they highlight is finding the right balance between structure and flexibility.
So not letting the chaos part overshadow the need for some boundaries and consistency.
Exactly. It's not about throwing out all the rules and letting kids run wild. It's about finding that sweet spot that works for your family and your values.
Right, like that old saying, freedom within limits. Kids need both to thrive, don't they?
Absolutely. Children thrive when they have clear boundaries,
Mhm.
but they also need the freedom to explore, experiment, and make their own choices within those boundaries.
So it's about creating a safe container for their creativity and imagination while still giving them a sense of security.
Exactly. And finding that balance can be tricky, especially for parents who are used to more traditional approaches.
It's a real mindset shift from control to collaboration, isn't it?
It is.
Uh-huh.
And that could be a big adjustment for some parents. Another potential challenge, and this is something I've thought about, is dealing with skepticism from other people. Not everyone is going to be on board with the idea of using magic in parenting, especially those with a more traditional or scientific viewpoint.
It's true. Not everyone is open to these unconventional ideas. Did the book have any advice for dealing with that?
It did. The book emphasizes being respectful of other people's beliefs and being mindful of how you talk about chaos magic.
So instead of focusing on the word magic, maybe framing it in a way that highlights the practical benefits, like how it can foster creativity, build emotional intelligence, and strengthen family bonds.
Exactly. You could simply talk about it as tapping into your child's imagination or creating meaningful family rituals.
And if someone's still hesitant, you can always call them creative parenting techniques or imaginative play, right?
Exactly. You don't have to get into a debate about the nature of magic if it makes people uncomfortable. Focus on the positive impact it can have.
That makes sense. It's about the outcome, not the label. Now I have to ask, is there a risk of parents getting too caught up in the elaborate rituals and symbols, and then they lose sight of the real purpose? Connecting with their children and building that loving and supportive environment.
That's a valid concern, and the book touches upon that as well. It's important to remember that chaos magic is a tool, not the end goal. The rituals and symbols are simply a way to enhance connection, creativity, and well-being within the family.
So it's about keeping the focus on the relationship, not on the perfectly curated ritual.
Exactly. And it's about finding what truly works for your family, not trying to recreate someone else's ideal magical system.
Because ultimately, the most magical part of parenting is the love and connection you share with your children.
Absolutely. Chaos magic can be a wonderful tool to strengthen those bonds, but it's the connection that matters most.
And that kind of brings us back to something we were talking about earlier, like getting the kids involved in creating these rituals and these symbols. It shouldn't be about us imposing our ideas on them, but about them, finding what clicks.
Right. When children actively participate in crafting their own little magical world, it becomes so much more meaningful. It's about tapping into their natural sense of wonder and giving them a sense of ownership over the process.
And let's be real, kids are already drawn to magic and make-believe, so why not use that to make, everyday life a bit more intentional and a bit more fun for everyone?
Exactly.
It's like we're giving them a whole new lens to view the world.
Exactly. And in doing so, we're creating this shared language of symbolism and ritual that can strengthen family bonds and equip everyone, parents included, to navigate the ups and downs of life with a little more creativity and resilience.
It strikes me that this whole concept of chaos magic really challenges how we traditionally view parenting.
Yeah.
It's less about being the expert with all the answers and more about being a guide, a co-creator with your child.
You're right. Chaos magic really flips the script on those old school parenting models. It's not about dictating how things should be, but about empowering children to explore, discover, and forge their own path.
It's about trusting their intuition and trusting their unique way of seeing the world.
Precisely. Chaos magic recognizes that children aren't empty vessels waiting to be filled with our knowledge, but complex individuals with their own perspectives and incredible potential.
Right. It's about fostering a more collaborative and a more respectful relationship, which I think benefits everyone involved.
Absolutely. And that shift in dynamic can be incredibly transformative for both the parent and the child.
One of the most, I think, powerful things about this whole approach is that it encourages us to embrace uncertainty.
Right.
And to view challenges as opportunities for growth, not just roadblocks.
I agree. In a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming chaos, magic gives us a framework for navigating those inevitable challenges with creativity, resilience, and a sense of wonder instead of getting bogged down by them.
It's about finding that magic in the messiness of it all.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful way to look at life and parenting especially.
It really is. It reminds us that we don't have to have all the answers, that it's okay to let go of control sometimes and trust the journey.
Oh, that's such a liberating thought. And honestly, it's something I think we could all benefit from, not just parents.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Chaos magic offers such a refreshing perspective. It embraces change, celebrates individuality, and invites us to co-create a more magical and meaningful world, starting with our own families.
Well said. As we kind of wrap up this deep dive, I'm feeling really inspired by the possibilities that chaos magic presents. It's not about escaping reality, but engaging with it in a more mindful, creative, and connected way.
And remember, it's about discovering those sparks of wonder and delight in the everyday chaos of family life.
Right.
Those moments are pure magic.
They really are. And for
Yeah.
anyone listening who is intrigued by what we've explored today, I highly recommend checking out Chaos Magic in Education by Ewell J. Juliana.
Great book.
It's a really thought-provoking read that just might transform the way you approach parenting and maybe even life in general. And if you're just looking for ways to bring a bit more intention and playfulness into your family life, try experimenting with some of the principles and the practices that we've talked about today.
Absolutely.
Who knows, you might just stumble upon a whole new world of magic and connection within your own family. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.